And welcome to the MLB Network Podcast, presented by the all-star lineup of Chevy trucks. I'm your host, Matt Vasgersian, and this is going to be a lot of fun for the next hour. Our guest is one of the most compelling baseball personalities that I've ever come across. He's done absolutely everything in the business, from being a first-round draft pick to a 10-year career as a player, 16 years managing in the big leagues, 6 years managing and dominating as a manager in Japan. He's been a broadcaster, he's been a scout, he's been a coach, he's been an advisor. I think he's been around every single baseball activity in the last 50 years you could think of, the one and only Bobby Valentine. Bobby, good to see you. Thanks for coming on here.
Matty, thank you very much. And I don't want to piss off the alum at Sacred Heart University. So there also is 8 years of being an AD at Sacred Heart University. And just the FYI.
That's good. I'm glad you started there, actually. I'm glad you started there because, you know, football season has begun. And you're a guy who, in your athletic career, certainly your baseball career, you were around long enough to have tons of fans, some detractors. You've always been kind of in the middle of that, I don't want to call it controversial existence, but you've done so many great things in the sport, you're bound to build an anti-following. And here's where I want to start. Your career as a college athlete, as a high school athlete in Connecticut was something that I think a lot of fans would be surprised to hear. You're still the only three-time All-State football player in Connecticut state history, which is unbelievable. So I want to ask you about this one game.
State. It's a big state, Matty. You know, I mean, it's a lot of high schools in that state. I think there were 3 when I was at high school, but
still, I want to ask you about this one game where you rushed for 6 touchdowns and set all kinds of records, but moments before the game, maybe the night before the game, the opposition burned you in effigy. I mean, if that doesn't prepare you for a life in the crosshairs, take us back to all that for you.
Hey, looking in the high school gym where we heard they were having their pet rally, Darryl Atterbury, my co-captain, and I went there and opened up the doors at the back to see what was going on. And up on stage, there was number 32 hanging and number 64 hanging in like dummies in uniforms. Yeah, that fired us up.
My goodness. I mean, so then you go out 24 hours later and you run all over in 6 touchdowns. What was there any discussion with the opposition after that performance?
No, there wasn't much discussion. I asked the coach if I could exceed my limits. I had some limitations, you know, could only run the ball 20 times and stuff like that by the baseball coach, you know, who was friends with the football coach. But they said, hey, this is the way this is going to come down. And he said, okay, we'll go up to 30 touches. And I scored 6 touchdowns. I scored every way you could score a touchdown before the 4th quarter started. So I ran one back, I ran a punt back, I intercepted one, I got a fumble, I caught a pass, and I ran through the line. I did all that.
Oh, I love it.
In one game, yeah.
Oh, God, I love it. So because of that night and others a lot like it, you were firmly on the radar as a college football recruit. They all wanted you, including USC, who wanted you to be the replacement for O.J. Simpson after he moved on to the NFL. You picked baseball. Why baseball instead of football?
And that's what John McKay told people when I got recruited, that I was going to take OJ's. I haven't claimed that, okay? But I heard him say it. And he probably said it to all the other running backs who were coming on scholarship at that time, right?
Yeah.
Now I know. But yeah, why did I sign? You know, I got drafted the day before Robert Kennedy was assassinated. Okay. And so the news was not about the draft. It was about how we can keep our Catholic family together. And oh my, this is number 2, you know? So I get a call from the Dodgers. I had already signed that letter of intent to go to the University of Southern California. My bags were packed, unless I got drafted by the Mets, who had the number 1 draft choice, and they said they were going to take me. And lo and behold, sitting there at night and waiting for the phone to ring, it finally rang because, of course, folks, there was no internet. This is 1968 in the year of the Lord. And when my dad picked it up, he gave me the phone, and the guy on the other end said, hi, this is Fresco Thompson. I'm with the Los Angeles Dodgers. Congratulations. We drafted you number 1 in the draft. They had the 5th pick. And I was really upset that the Mets didn't take me because they were all over me, scouting me the whole time. They take Tim Foley, who was 35 minutes from Dodger Stadium playing his high school ball at Notre Dame, and the Dodgers take me, and I'm 35 minutes from Shea Stadium. Go figure, right?
Wow.
Yeah, so he said, hey, number one, it was, oh, boom. And then I heard it was the Dodgers, oh, boom. Well, the Dodgers were the team that I made my first bet against and lost when the big mouth in junior high, Matty, was coming across in 63 saying, the Dodgers are going to sweep the Yankees. Dodgers are going to sweep the Yankees. And I was a seventh grader, on the side in the gym and everything. And this guy's being a big mouth. My cousin pushes me out from the side. He says, tell him they're not going to Bobby. I said, no, they're not going to sweep them. Well, they had won the first two games of that 63 series. And I was still sure my Yankees weren't going to get swept. So I said, no, they're not going to get swept in the series. And he said, I'll bet you $5 they do. Now, truth be told, I never had $5 on my person, Matty. I was 13 years old, right? And I had some change once in a while. I went to the store, bought my mom cigarettes, got some milk, something like that, bring it back. But to have $5 was unheard of. But I felt it was a safe bet until the phone rings after the 27th out of the game 4 when the Dodgers swept and my dad answered the phone. The guy told him what was happening. I got my ass kicked. And for the next 10 weeks, I brought 50 cents to school to pay down the debt. and I'm saying it wasn't a fun matter. So I hated the Dodgers.
Oh, that's so good. That's so good.
Yeah, so anyway,
so you get drafted by the Dodgers. You're a first rounder for that team. You play developmentally as a minor leaguer with some of the all-time greats in the franchise. You're managed by Tommy Lasorda. In fact, there's that picture of you guys as Spokane Indians that's made a lot of runs over the years. Tommy Paciorek, Garvey's in this picture. You came up with legendary company. Billy Buckner. Yeah, a lot of great players. In that group, who were you closest with, and who were you most impressed by as a teammate?
Wow. Yeah, it was an amazing draft. The first draft was 3 years prior. Then the Dodgers put a thing together, and they drafted. I'm there next to Tommy Lasorda. That's Steve Garvey, Billy Buckner, Tommy Hutton, who was one of the best first basemen I've ever played with, as good a fielder as Wes Parker and Keith Hernandez. Just the FYI, and Bobby Robbins there. And that was a great group. It was a great draft. And I was most impressed with Buck because Billy Buck was from Vallejo, California, a little town up there, wanted to be a number 1 draft choice, was the number 2 draft choice in the 68 draft that we were talking about behind me, and was pissed off every day he put on the uniform and looked at me until we became best friends, huh? You know what I mean? And then we roomed together in college, and then we joined the fraternity together, and then we roomed together in the big leagues and in AAA. And the impressive thing about Buck is that there was never an at-bat that he gave away, nor was there ever a pitcher that he liked. And never, ever was he satisfied, even when he got 4 hits in a game, and he did that a whole bunch of times.
That takes me to a question that we had scheduled for later on in this podcast, but I want to ask you now, because you're talking about guys who you're impressed by. In your managerial career, both here at home and abroad, your playing career, who's the athlete that you've been most impressed with? Not necessarily the baseball player, but the athlete that you were taken with.
Wow. Well, I got to be in the dugout when Bo was running down the line in Kansas City. And to watch him do the stuff, striking out against Nolan Ryan like 13 times in a row on high fastballs. And he was swinging and missing. And that 14th time, he put it in the fountain, and there was a tip of the hat by Nolan and a tip of the hat by him, because great athletes understand the competition. And these are two of the best. And Nolan just had his number until he deposited one in the lake. You know what I mean?
You bring up Nolan, cool. And I got to ask you about Nolan, too, because obviously you guys worked together a long time with the Rangers, and you had his last 2 no-hitters in 1990 and in 1991. So I guess the low-hanging fruit question is you're managing Nolan Ryan. He is the peak of his powers. He's a demigod. You're a relatively young manager. You'd been in the Texas dugout for a while. What's it like when he's at pitch number 115 and you go out to chat with? Did you talk to him at all during either of those no-hitters? Take us back to those two.
Yeah, Matty. First off, I played center field in his first no-hitter, and I was in the stands with a broken leg when he threw his second no-hitter.
Wow.
So to be here where he's throwing his sixth no-hitter up in Oakland, and then to go back to Texas after everyone felt, oh, God, he did it on the road. He threw a no-hitter. The ancient man wonder did it, but he didn't do it at home. And all the Texas fans were so distraught that they didn't get to see it. And then when he came back home the next month, they got to see it. And that's the final out of his seventh no-hitter. And incredibly, Matty, you've been here. The bat boy in that game right there was Perry Manassian. He was 9 years old. And when Nolan was sitting on the bench, Perry was standing and they were eyeball to eyeball.
Is it true that Perry was the only guy that Nolan would speak to during those starts?
Speak to. He's the only one on that side of the bench, on that side of the dugout.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's so great.
Cool.
Hey, you mentioned something else there that I want to hit you with. The fact that you were nursing a broken leg. Your big league career might have gone differently had you not had that unfortunate injury. You're playing with the Angels at that time, am I correct?
Yeah.
And your leg got torn up. The game has changed mercifully since then. Conditions are a lot better for players.
Not really.
No?
Well, I mean, the fence that I ran into wasn't much different than the fence in Anaheim today. It had the same tarp that was pulled taut over wire fencing in the back. It's just not expanded as far as it was in those days. All right. So it's an 8-foot expansion instead of, I think, 14. Yeah.
So at the time, is the discussion around your injury is like, oh, that's just an unfortunate thing that happens? Or was it, hey, there's some negligence here. This fence sucks. This guy got hurt because the facility wasn't up to code?
Well, there wasn't any of that. It was 1973. But there was stuff about the way my leg healed at a 19-degree bend one way and an 18-degree bend the other way. And there was a malpractice suit that I took against the Angels doctor, orthopedic surgeon, if you can imagine, at the time. Yeah, and lost. Because the only witness that I had come to trial was Dr. Bob Curlin, who testified on my behalf that it was below the standard of practice in the community. And I thought that was cool. But then the defense or his lawyer asked me in cross-examination if I ever talked to Bob Curlin after I broke my leg. I said, yeah, he called me in the hospital room and offered his services. He then went to the judge and said, Judge, it's illegal in our community to solicit business. It seems like this witness was soliciting business. And I asked for his testimony to be stricken from the files.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah, but to your credit, I mean, you picked yourself up and played another, 6-7 years after that.
Yeah, I was stinky. Yeah, I limped around. I figured out how to play. Matt, I like the way you see things, life, and the way you see baseball too. And when you look through a lens of being the third place hitter, it's a whole different way of looking at the game when you're the 25th man on the team, and the experience that I got as a 25th man was a lot longer than the experience I got as a third place hitter.
That's that's all interesting.
You know what I mean?
But for a guy that managed for a long time in different continents and had a ton of success, I'm sure those experiences as a player at various ends of the spectrum were invaluable.
Without a doubt. When I was playing, I'm like every other player. I was into me. I tried to be the great teammate. And, my first roommate ever, Tommy Pachorik, still my best friend today. I still call him all the time. Actually called him this morning and told him I was going to be on the show with you. He wanted to say hi to Matty. He likes what you do also. But, when I stopped playing as a regular, I then started to do what coaches are supposed to do. And I started giving, instead of being the player waiting around, seeing what I was going to get, who's going to tell me how good I am and all that good stuff. You're now reaching out to guys and saying, hey, that was cool the way you got your hands in on that. Hey, that was a nasty breaking ball. Don't worry about it. He's not going to throw another one. Any of that kind of giving that was necessary. And that evolved into my coaching life.
Perfect place for us to take our first break, because when we come back, we're going to talk about the coaching life, the managerial life, and life abroad, where Bobby Valentine had all kinds of success. So we're going to take a break. We'll be back on the MLB Network podcast right after this.
Just like diehard fans of Major League Baseball, Chevy trucks show up no matter what. Because the Chevy lineup of trucks has always stepped up to the plate and helped hardworking people get things done. Visit Chevy.com/trucks to find the truck that can take you from the ballpark to the worksite and back again.
Let us feel again.避けて通っていたこんな自分とはさよならしよう暗闇を照らし決して人を責めず自分と戦う君の美しい By my side By my side 今やらなきゃいつやるの何度も言い聞かせる
Holy cow, is there a lot going on there? Welcome back to the MLB Network podcast with the one and only Bobby Valentine. We don't have enough time for you to explain that entire video, but what was going on there?
We made a music video. It was a group that I became close with who wrote a theme song for our championship team before we won the championship. That's the lead singer, Shin, in this group, Dean. And they wanted to do a music video. They knew that I could dance. And we rented out a beautiful hotel room in one of the neighboring cities, Yokohama. And we got the film crew up, and this guy kind of got some awards over there as one of the cool videos.
Nailed
about,
it.
Make it happen and make the team kind of concept was the song.
Okay, I got it. I'm fascinated by this portion of your career, as so many people are. I know you've spoken about it a lot, but you finish your managerial run with the Rangers, 8 years there. You go to manage in Japan for a season. You come back. You manage the Mets. You go to a World Series. We'll talk about that again. And then you go back to Japan for 6 years and have a ton of success over there. The first time you went, did you speak any Japanese when you got there?
Not much, no. I was the lead in the school class play in high school. My lead role was as a Japanese interpreter in the play Tea House of the August Moon. So there were Japanese lines in that play that I had learned, but no, I couldn't speak anything when I first got there. And there was no Roman letterings for any of the signage or anything in 95. And 98.6% of the people were 100% Japanese.
Wow.
In the country in 95. So yeah, it was quite an adaptation, quite an occurrence. And I would have stayed there probably for 10 years had I not been told by the Mets if I could get out of the second year of my contract, they were going to give me the job as the Met manager. And I got out of the contract and it came back and they said they were only kidding.
So you went.
I got to manage your AAA team again.
You got the AAA managerial job. Then you stayed with the Mets, went to the World Series, and then you went back out there to Japan for 6 more years. I know that there've been years where you've been like the de facto voice of Japanese baseball. Wherever there's a rumor of this great Japanese talent, hey, call Bobby V. He's probably seen him, or he probably knows him, or he's probably having sushi with him right now, knowing you. Who are some of those players that you had your eyes on first and came here and had great success?
Well, obviously, 51, Ichiro was in his second year, my first year as manager. And that happened to be the same year that Nomo came to the Dodgers to pitch. So I went there and he came here. And our opening day was in Kobe, Japan, the site of the earthquake 4 months prior. That was devastating. Knocked the freeways down, knocked the houses down. Somehow in 4 months, Matty, they put the infrastructure back together. So we did opening day in their stadium where you had to drive right through the demolished city of Kobe. Yeah, it's really amazing. And this guy Ichiro was on the team. And it wasn't like I was surprised that he was on the team, because the year before he led the league in hitting, was the MVP and the Rookie of the Year. And all our spring training, part of it done in Arizona, was watching video and figuring out how to get this guy out. He was in our division, you know, so it was an honor to manage against them. It was easy for me then. Hey, you know, there were other guys, you know, Darvish won the last 2 games of the season 2 times. That kept me from winning more championships than I did there. And, you know, he was a savant there. You know, Matsuzaka was a savant. There were a lot of guys, Matty, who were really good. And when they got here, didn't translate into being as good, mainly because it was hard to adapt. But once the word got back, once Matsui and Ichiro and Nomo and Matsuzaka, once the word started getting back, this is what it is when you get there. And the surprise became less and the adjustment became less. You see better players crossing the pond.
Yeah. Harder, do you think, because there have been a lot of players that have gone over there, American players that have gone to Japan, and there's a book that was written a long time ago by a writer named either Robert Whiting or Robert Whiting. I'm remiss for not getting Robert Whiting, called You Gotta Have Wa, which is Japanese for heart. I would imagine for our guys, American-born players, it's hard to go over there because culturally the game is taken so much differently. And there have been a lot of them, right? From Bob Horner and Charlie Manuel, big home run hitters, to guys like Bobby Rose, you know, role player guys that go over there. Who do you think it's harder, the Japanese player coming to the U.S. or vice versa?
Japanese coming here. Yeah. Mainly because food is such a main part of their culture. And food in America is an acquired taste. You know what I mean? Where in Japan, once you get by having to name everything that they're putting in front of you and you just start eating it, it's a fun place to you know, enjoy. But yeah, you know, it's really hard. I mean, we came over for 2 weeks, I said, for spring training one time, and we had to bring, that's the Japan team coming to Arizona for spring training when I was managing them. And we had to bring our own rice. We had to bring our own water. In 747s, this is like 2 weeks, 85 guys eating rice every day. You know, they weren't going to eat American rice.
All right, since you went to food, I got to hit you with this. Of all the you know, borderline outlandish claims that great players of your contemporary have made. Hawk Harrelson invented the batting glove, and I do believe that to be true because I love Hawk. You have claimed for some time to have invented the sandwich wrap. Confirm or deny, and how did that come about?
Okay, how it came about is that I was cooking one day, and the banker that loaned me the $35,000 to open up my restaurant in 1980 was out, and he wanted a club sandwich on toast, and our toaster broke, and I was behind the grill flipping burgers, and I told the gal, I'll figure something out, tell him to have another martini. And while he was having his second martini, Matty, it was 1980, while he was having his second martini on me, of course, I took a tortilla shell, which the guy behind me who was on the fryers, I was on the grill, he's on the fryers, was cutting, you know, 10-inch tortilla shells into 4 quadrants, throwing them in the deep fryer to make chips, right? Well, I took one of the tortillas and I put all the ingredients of a club sandwich with the mayonnaise and a little Russian dressing and lettuce, tomato, mayonnaise, turkey, the whole 9 yards, and rolled it up in this tortilla shell, then took 2 flat pieces of cheese, put it over so that the seam would not come apart, put it in the salamander, melted the cheese, and served it as a club Mexican style. bean. It was tortilla. He loved it. I had to put it on the menu. And my manager one time was on one of these Food Network things, and they said, well, what's special? You know, he's walking around our kitchen and everything and showing him we do this. And, well, so what's so special? Well, you know, Bobby invented the wrap right here where you're standing. Baba, the rest is history. Then when I go to Boston, they do the search. And the Wall Street Journal winds up coming out with the article, and you can Google it, that says, we searched menus from 1981. There's no wrap sandwich to be found other than one place, Stamford, Connecticut, 235 Main Street at Bobby V's.
Validated.
Validated by the Wall Street Journal.
Is that possibly the best thing to come of your one-year stay as a manager in Boston? Is that?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, that and you know, some of the guys, you know, like Brez was on that team. Now to see him as a general manager is cool, and he's a Yale guy, Connecticut guy. We did charity stuff together and all that because of the friendships that we made when I had him pitch. As a matter of fact, to Ryan Lavarnway. Huh?
That's right.
You know the significance of that?
I don't know. Lavarnway played for a while. He played independent ball afterwards. So tell me the significance of that.
They're both Yaleys, and they're both Jewish.
Oh.
And it was the first time a Jewish battery ever performed in a major league game.
That's outstanding. That was under your watch in Boston.
Yeah, I did that. Yeah.
Confirmation.
I planned it, actually.
Confirmation of the wrap.
Doing.
Yeah, confirmation of the wrap, and an entry in the Jewish American athletics history books. That's fabulous. Hey,
Thanks,
I've told you about this before. And I know you don't remember it per se, but man, I sure did. I was doing a game on FX, a Saturday night game in FX. It was a Phillies-Mets game back in the old days. You were still managing. It was Tommy Lasorda's birthday. I don't know why he was in town, but you took Tommy out to dinner at a place called Buona Notte in Little Italy. And I was doing the game with Ken Brett, who you guys were friends with. And Ken said,
we were in the back. We were in the back, like little garden area.
Yes,
back there.
I thought I died and gone to heaven. I'm in a room that I have no business being in with these legendary baseball figures. That it made such an impression on me. You guys were also gracious. It was a good
couple hours, wasn't it?
It was, and you were very gracious to involve me. I want to ask you about an experience like that. Were you ever taken with celebrity because you played in L.A., you played with the Angels? I mean, you've been around the rich and famous your whole life. Who really impressed you outside of baseball? Was there a night like that I just described?
Wow. Bill Clinton really impressed me when he came to Shea Stadium to retire Jackie Robinson's number. And so that was going to be there with Rachel Robinson and the commissioner and all. And he came into my office at the beginning of the time, and I brought my coaches in to meet him, and he said hello to all of them. And he said, hey, can I go out into your clubhouse to meet your players? And I said, they'd love that. And he went around the entire locker room and said something about the guy that he shouldn't have known, which was kind of cool. Now, I don't know if he had a little earpiece in. Yeah, you know what I mean? But the Secret Service guys told me that there was no earpiece, and he briefed himself from the time he landed at LaGuardia to the time he got to Shea. And that's just an 8-iron away. Huh? And he had the wherewithal to say to Armando Benitez, I'll never forget, does your mom still make you rice and beans before the game?
Wow.
He read that somewhere, but he remembered it.
That's great. That's great. We have a little bit of time left with the great Bobby Valentine. We're going to take one last break, come back for some word association. We're going to show Bobby V some photos, get his first thoughts as the MLB Network Podcast continues right after this.
The farmer's dog thinks about your dog every day because their goal is to help them live a long, healthy life. Their food is developed by a team of board-certified vet nutritionists. Unlike most pet foods, the farmer's dog is made to human-grade standards. It's gently cooked without the ultra-processing and portioned for easy weight management. Because sure, good ingredients matter, but the best recipes call for so much more. Get 50% off your first box of the official pet food of Major League Baseball at thefarmersdog.com/MLB. That's thefarmersdog.com/MLB.
So much fun visiting with Bobby Valentine on the podcast today. And it's time, Bobby, for the Fresh Take presented by Farmer's Dog. I believe you have an 80-pound collie with you in the room as we speak from our earlier conversation. So give us your fresh take on the one player in today's game that you would start a franchise with.
Oh, wow. Yeah, there's too many for one. But, you know, Matty, when you hang around that Angel team, as you did a little, and I've done a little, you can't help but fall in love with Zach Neto.
Yeah.
I think he's just scratching the surface on what his numbers could look like. And he puts up things in a spectacular way, you know? I mean, you've seen what he's done against the best pitchers who he had to face. And usually it's on the first pitch they throw to him.
True.
And then there's a little eyeball. I love the way he does his thing.
Yeah.
I really do.
Oh, that's a great answer. Yeah, he's the only guy to take Tarek Skubal deep twice in the same season. And he is, I'm with you. I love the way he plays. I like his heartbeat. That's a great answer. So let's do a little word association here, Bobby. We're going to show you some photos. Some you're probably familiar with, maybe one or two you're not as familiar with recently. And just give us the first thing that pops into your mind when you see these pics. Let's roll the first one. Here you are, baseball card with the
halo.
halo.
That's the year I broke my leg. Yeah, playing for the Angels. We're number 13.
Geez, unlucky number. Maybe that's part of it. Holy cow. All right, how about the next one? Because a lot of folks don't remember your time in San Diego, per se.
Oh, me neither. Actually, I came back to play with the Angels and got in a barroom fight with one of the coaches. And the next morning, I was traded down to San Diego, where I played on their Hawaii team. I hit 300 and got called to the major leagues, made the big leagues the next year. And I got traded on June 15th on this disastrous Tom Seaver trading day.
That's right.
I was traded to New York for Dave Kingman.
What did they call that? Like the day of demarcation, Bloody Sunday, some weird...
Yeah. Bloody Friday, yeah.
Black Friday.
Black Friday, I think maybe Black Friday. Oh, yeah. It wasn't a fun place to go. And being one of the guys who was coming back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Joe Torre was our player manager, Matty. Check it out. That's Stevie Henderson, Pat Zachary, and Doug Flynn, all who came to the Mets for Tom Seaver, and me at the end who came to the Mets for Kingman. And Joe was trying to put his money in that basket. Oh. That's why that experiment didn't last very long.
What a great story. That's great background there. Let's hit you with the next photo here. Let's see if we strike gold. Wow, you and Nolan, and you're looking like you're ready for Miami Vice.
You know, we signed Nolan out of the winter meetings and against all odds. We got to go in last. I got to talk to his beautiful wife, Ruthie, ask what she needed. You know what she needed? She needed a clubhouse that was open for her kids to spend time with the father when the father wasn't working. And at the time, that wasn't really happening. And I said, do you want the key or should I just take off the locks? And so during their conversation, because our money wasn't the most and our line was the best, that our president said, Nolan, you're a Texas treasure, and it's our obligation to keep you in Texas.
Wow.
Pretty good line.
Oh, that's good. But that was the beginning of what happens now, Bobby. In addition to the money, now we hear all about things like Juan Soto signed with the Mets because they're nice to his family. You know, things like that. It's not $750 million. It's some of the personal trappings that go along with it.
And you hear about guys who get with a team and all of a sudden they're succeeding because they figured they finally got to a place where a coach is showing him some love, you know?
Yeah,
instead of always having to prove everything to the guy and never doing anything right. That's a hard way to make an existence.
Right.
You know, you get in an environment where a guy gets you and understands you, it's a lot easier to succeed. The players don't care what you know until they know that you care, and there's just not enough of that going on these days.
Oh, amen. That's great stuff. All right, we're going to hit you with the last one. You probably saw this one coming. I mean, this is it, man. This is so good. Could you imagine? You played in the big leagues for 10 years. You're a first rounder. You managed for your whole life in the game. Yet this is the picture so many people remember for Bobby Valentine.
Yeah, that's the only thing they remember, Matt. But you know what? It made me kind of generational. You know, I was able to skip a couple generations from being in uniform. People say, oh, you're the guy with the mustache. And they say, how'd you ever get caught? And I said, I just shouldn't have worn that Met T-shirt. If it You think that's what gave me away?
Did you think at the time you were going to pull that off, though? You had to know if somebody was
No,
going
I really did. That shoulder there, that's Oral Hershiser. He's up on the top step so that the umpires can't see me. Okay? If one of them walks over, I ditch, but the umpires can't see me. But this was caught from the over third camera. Okay? And went down. The umpires didn't know until I came out on the field. It was slapping guys high five because we won the game. And they laughed.
Who had the mustache, or was it tape and magic marker?
Yeah, no, it's the eyes thing here. I went in, looked in the mirror, took one, put it here, put one here. So, and I looked at Robin Ventura, and Robin said, "Oh, they'll never know."
I mean, you look pretty good. That's so good.
That's what he said.
Hey, Bobby, we can't tell you how grateful we are for you coming on the podcast, man. We could visit with you forever. So many great stories and memories. We appreciate your time, and hopefully we get to see you in person soon.
I want to give you a great photo I found in Tommy Lasorda's storage, which is a treasure word. They did not make the cut. They didn't make the cut in The Godfather 2. But that's Lasorda, Steve Yeager, Tommy Pashurk, and Bill Buckner, all who acted and thought they were going to be in The Godfather 2, which was being filmed in Santo Domingo when they were playing Winter Ball in 1973 to make it look like Cuba, right? And that's Al Pacino, and they had filmed their thing. They were all smoking a cigar, and they were left on the cutting room floor.
Amazing.
But I found a photo.
Wait a minute, Garvey was in it, though, right?
I don't know. Maybe he was there. He was in Winter Ball.
That photo is amazing. I don't know that there are many of those floating around. Hang on to that one. That's good stuff. Bobby, thanks again for the visit. And again, hope to see you in person one of these days coming up soon. Thanks for watching the MLB Network podcast, driven by the all-star lineup of Chevy trucks. I'm your host, Matt Vasgersian. We'll see you next time.